I'm happy to bring on Absalom Jordan and Ibrahim Mukmin. I hope Ibrahim is with us. We keep losing him, but we hope that he'll be back. Ab, how are you?
I have to unmute. I'm doing just fine, Denise. How are you?
Great.
It's,
Doing
I saw you earlier today. It's wonderful seeing you, sister.
likewise, likewise. Nice seeing you too. And Ibrahim, I think we're going to get you in here. But, I wanted to talk. I just wanted to take a step back because I don't even know if we have this photograph. I wanted to show it because it's been one of the best photos that I've really just admired of the founding of, that's not the one, Shevry, but that's fine. But it's the founding, I think, of the Black United Front here in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you all are in that photograph, if you're in an ab, but it had Stokely, Carmichael, and Reverend Channing Phillips, and Marion Barry, and so many other folks. Why was I guess was it the late 60s?
1968, yeah.
What sparked the you all to establish the Black United Front?
Well, I'm not one of the original founders. I'm one of the original the early members of it. You can look and see Walter Fauntroy, Stokely Carmichael, Walter B. Cox Jr., Tony Cox, Chuck Stone, and that's Willie Hardy there. And one of the things that prompted them was something that Wilhelmina fought about, and that was police misconduct, brutality. And the thing that first got me interested in Black United Front was there was a black family in the 1300 block of Columbia Road who had killed a police officer. And Walter Fauntroy came out and made a press statement saying that the killing of this police officer was justifiable homicide in the same sense that every time a black person was killed by a police officer, it was justifiable homicide. So it was a revolutionary kind of step. Stokely Carmichael created as an umbrella organization that kind of brought all the groups together to say we have one focus, and that was to deal with the issues that were confronting the black community in a revolutionary way.
And this was in the midst of a lot of activity going on in Washington. Like you said, it was I guess near or right after the assassination of Dr. King. What was happening in the city just with police community relations. DC still didn't have full voting rights at the time. There were a lot of angry people in Washington who felt as though there was a need for better, I guess, self-reliance, control of the city. Can you talk about the atmosphere in that period?
Well, it was one where black folks were saying that we were tired of being tired, in a sense, and it involved young people. Like I say, Brother Ibrahim was a student at Howard University. Tony Cox, uh, a, a football player, commissioned second lieutenant in the U.S. Army, a law student at Howard University. These young people were willing to give up everything to come and stand for um, black people being liberated in that sense. And so this was a part of the Black Power movement. And like I say, the front was more inclined to dealing with issues, not from a violent perspective, but was willing to offer opportunities for people to learn how to defend themselves. And we fought on those questions.
And what were some, I know that we'll talk a little bit about the United Black Fund, which you were a part of the founding of that organization. But were there other, let's say, like, I don't want to say demands, but other, maybe demands would be one question, but other programs or that came out of the Black United Front?
Well, let me just give you a couple of points. One is that we were the first black organization in the nation to file a lawsuit against a TV station. And so through Gene and Ed Kahn at George Washington University, we were able to challenge WMAL's license. And then subsequent to that, we challenged WTTG's license. So we were instrumental in getting all of the blacks that you see on radio and on TV, because there were no blacks on TV at the time that we filed the suit. And we were also instrumental in getting the first black commissioner appointed to the Federal Communication Commission, Ben Hooks. So those were some of the things we were doing outside of just the revolutionary things, but we had the Pioneer Hunting and Fishing Club that was affiliated with the National Rifle Association. Uh, we trained over 700 people to learn how to defend themselves. And so there were things that we did that may have been out the ordinary. We also did the boycott against DC Transit, Oroy Chalk, and was able to defeat him. So those were some of the things that happened, that we were instrumental in.
I think we have Ibrahim. I hope we have Ibrahim because he and I talked about this before and thought, well, this would be a great conversation to have. Ibrahim, are you there? Yeah, he keeps freezing up on us. Let's talk. I mean, one of the programs, and I do want to sort of mention this because, well, first let me say the thing that we don't have the photograph up, but what fascinated me about that photograph was you all were revolutionaries. Marion Barry was the only one that seemed to have the dashiki, and everybody else had on suits and ties.
No,
What was that all about?
no, that's Tony Cox.
Tony Cox?
That's Walter Bishop Jr. Walter Bishop Jr. Cox. He was the one who forced me, in a sense. I was I was working for IBM at that point, and I was the first black that was hired by the Office Products Division in the city, the second in the country. I was bougie in a sense. And Tony went out there and was struggling, and he lived in my neighborhood. I was a few years older than him. I considered him one of the kids that I'd mentored to. And Tony was out there struggling around this issue. And so that drew me into the Black United Front. So, yeah, I remember them. And Chuck Stone worked for Adam Clayton Powell, a reporter you've got to know about Chuck Stone. So, yeah, those. And Willie Hardy, we can't miss Willie Hardy. She eventually became a city council person. So it was a group that represented all facets of the city who are all said, we're tired of being tired. You understand?
And you even, I think about Reverend Channing Phillips, that name that we don't hear too much about anymore. We're talking about great heroes, but also, what church was he affiliated with? Do you recall?
No, I can't remember.
Okay. All right. But no, I mean, just to have, like you said, people across different professions involved in this. And Ibrahim, do we have you back yet? And we laugh because, Ab, you and I over here in Southeast DC, we think the folks, we don't have the services that folks downtown has, but Ibrahim's in Shaw. What's wrong with his internet?
And he's been one of the reasons the show's developed the way it is. He's been instrumental there in the show development.
So, we're going to talk in a little bit to Salim Adafu, who has started, sort of another version of the Black United Front. But, and then in the midst of this Black Lives Matter movement, when you saw that movement start, Black Lives Matter, tell me what went through your mind as one who's been intimately involved in movements in the past.
Well, let me tell you, I went to Doug Moore at one point, who was the chairman of the Black United Front, and told him that we were losing ground, so to speak. The folks were no longer kind of willing to struggle around certain kind of issues. And I was kind of lamenting the fact. And he said, look, Ab, he said, history is cyclical. And he made the point that we might see a lull at this point, he said, but it's going to rise up again. And I'm so excited to see Black Lives Matter. It's like they're our grandchildren, so to speak. I have grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I'm almost 80 years old. I'll be 80 in May, so I'm an old man.
Congratulations.
But it's seeing them, Denise. I mean, and I just love what they're doing. Now, we differ in one respect because they're nonviolent. And we were nonviolent to the extent that we weren't going to initiate anything, but we were willing to defend ourselves. But I welcome them. I'm proud of them. I mean, it's almost as if out of the ground, the seed that was planted years ago is starting to come to fruition, and they everything that we could ever hope for. down at Bethlehem Baptist Church. They've inspired us. I don't know if you looked at Howard Road, but we painted a big Black Lives Matter sign on our street on Howard Road there. So, I mean, they've been inspirational, and it's just great. And I
Well,
was saying to them, don't give up, don't give up. We've got the momentum now. Keep moving forward. And also, I would suggest them that they connect with brothers like Ibrahim and myself, because it's always important to relate to the elders. There are things that we contribute, but hey, more power to them. Yes.
yeah, and as somebody said before, a lot of times young people don't who did I hear say a service a story about this is not your grandmother's revolution, because back in the day, people were risking their lives. They could be hung,
Yeah.
they could be lynched, shot, killed. I mean, when you all stepped out to be advocates for the community, the tone and the time was a lot different than it is today. But I guess once a revolutionary, always one. And I hope to find ways to make sure that the generations connect. And I'm just any parting comments you want to give before we
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. Also, one of the things that organized the Black United Front, I would say, is the same thing that's got Black Lives Matter organized, and that's around police misconduct. And we held the first hearings on police misconduct at the Southeast Neighborhood House here in Ward 8 uh, around the issue of police misconduct. So, yes, the struggle is still around these issues that existed 40 years ago, and we can't give up on it now.
And I'm
So,
going to say, I think even our current chief um, needs to give credit. Chief Conti needs to give credit to the folks who were involved with the Black United Front for opening up the doors for blacks in the Metropolitan Police Department. Because before then, I don't think what you had one, or but nobody who had any higher ranks or.
that's my phone. Don't worry.
All right. No, did you want to address that before we sign off?
Yeah, one last thing when you mentioned about police. Also, the other thing we want to note is we were the first organization in the city to help organize the black law enforcement officers. We brought Renault Robinson out of Detroit, Michigan, down here to help to create the Black Police Officers Organization. So, like I say, it wasn't that we were just against police. And you're right, your father was involved in the effort to recruit. Um, blacks youth for the police department. So yes, we believe that we should have had our representative, our people, black folks in the police department, because that was a way of ensuring that we wouldn't have the kind of brutality and misconduct that we were having. Yeah, it's
And
been a long
interestingly
struggle
enough, I
making progress,
know,
Denise.
and folks went on to become mayor and a member of Congress and all kinds of positions that happened as a result of that. So
Yeah,
I just want to thank you. I hope that person calling was calling to say they're seeing you on Win TV and they wanted to say hi.
thank you for having us.
My
And I'm
pleasure. My
sorry
pleasure.
Abraham wasn't able to get through, but he's a good brother,
Well,
and
let's
maybe
talk about trying to pull something together once we can get out into the community again and really have a community conversation. I think that would be wonderful.
thank you, lady.
And happy birthday in advance.